Hey, I'm Sanya Richards-Ross, and I'm a guest on season 4 of Nothing to Lose But Yourself, hosted with Ricky Day.
Well, y'all, I'm excited. It is season 4, and my guest today is another reason I'm excited. She is a 4-time Olympic gold medalist in track and field, a 6-time world champion. She holds the 400-meter record, American record, that is. She's a 3-time author. She's the founder and co-owner of Mommi Nation. She's a sports analyst and commentator for NBC, and she was a TV host. And if that's not enough, she is one of the housewives on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Who am I talking about? You guys know. Welcome to the podcast, Sanya Richards-Ross. What's going on? How are you?
I'm well, Ricky. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that very thorough introduction. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are really thrilled to have you. And it's funny, my friends are laughing, the ones that know about this, because they know I'm not a huge fan of reality shows. They're like, wait, you're doing what?
I
I'm
get
like, she is
it.
so much more than that.
So
Not that
much
it's
more.
exactly. So welcome to the podcast. And to that end, how's everything going with you? How's life? How's Ross? How's Deuce? How's everybody?
Yeah, everything is good. We've been in Atlanta now almost 2 years, and it's been such a good move for us, for our family. Deuce is thriving in school. I love the diversity of this community. Everyone has just been so warm and just has accepted us, and it's just been really great. So I'm a happy wife, happy mom, and work is going well too.
That's good. Good stuff. Glad to hear it, particularly in these times we living in. It's like you can't take any of it for granted. So
Yeah, for sure.
we are
Thank you.
happy for you. Yeah, we talked about Housewives real briefly. I mean, let's just dive right into that. Like, you excited about season 4? I mean, the premiere is happening when this conversation drops at the same. You're the premiere guest
Yeah.
on here, and we're premiering the new season. You guys excited about the season? Anything you can give us a little scoop on anything that's coming?
Well, I am super excited. So this is going to be my sophomore season, but the 15th season of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And this season is really, really amazing. I felt like we filmed 2 seasons in one. It was just so much happening. And I think what made this season even better than last is that last season kind of felt like a rebuilding year for the franchise. Like it was my first season. Drew was on for her second season. A lot of the big names had left the franchise. And so,
Mhm.
I feel like this season we become real friends, and we are like, it's real skin in the game. And, it just feels very authentic and real as you see, I think, very dynamic women, strong-willed boss women, really trying to navigate, new friendships and sisterhood, and family and relationships and new guys and just all the
It's
things.
a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And so, I just actually saw the first episode, and I'm really excited. It's a supersized episode, and it's really good. So I can't wait for the fans to see it, and see the growth of the group. Because I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I am becoming a, I do a deep dive on my research, so I had to watch an entire season. If my
You
friends know
watched the
me, I mean,
entire season?
yeah, yeah.
Respect. I respect that. I respect that. Like, I do some journalism too, some broadcasting, and I know it's
Mhm.
not easy always doing the research on folks. And for you to go back and watch the entire season, I really respect that.
I appreciate you, and respect is the word of the day, because as my friends will share, I'm not a reality show fan. I got my reasons for that. It'll come up in the conversation a little bit, but I respect everybody doing what they do and the reasons why they do it or whatever. And so, and it was good to watch it because it reminded me to check myself and not get in my head about what I thought of something or whether it's worthy or not, or what, because people have
Yeah.
reasons for doing the things they're doing. People are telling, in some cases, some really compelling human stories. And I was
Yes.
reminded of that on watching the season. So it was good for me too. It brought me down a notch or two. It made me appreciate it for what it is. Now, I know you are a proud Jamaican woman. I'm Jamaican by relationship myself now, and more on that another time. But tell me a little bit, just for those who may not know, tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your family and your childhood, and how your
Yeah.
parents poured into you.
Yeah. So I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, in a two-parent household, my sister and I. And, I just have the fondest memories of my childhood in Jamaica. Track and field is the biggest sport there. And I remember at the age of 7, or age of 9, writing for my class assignment that I would be an Olympic champion. And so, I always say I got the best of both worlds because I had this wonderful foundation set being in Jamaica, in a place where track was so popular with great coaching and great inspiration. And then my family migrated to the United States when I was 12, and I was able to continue, on this journey towards becoming an Olympic champion in track and field. And so, I'm very, 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 very blessed. My family, my mom, my dad made so many sacrifices
Mhm.
for me to be able to live this dream. And as a parent myself now, I don't take that for granted. Like going to track meets every day, staying up all night. They converted
Yeah.
their garage to a gym. My mom became a trainer. My dad and mom traveled the world with me. It was just all the things to allow me to live this dream. So, I feel like my childhood was incredible. And it's, very few people get to say that they said they would do something when they were 9 and they actually did it 20 years later.
Yeah.
And so, it's a dream come true. And I still take a lot of the lessons I learned from sports into all the things that I do. Because I do think that sports was definitely my greatest life teacher.
No, that's good. That's good stuff. And what jumps out at me is it's such a beautiful example of the importance of parenting and being in your children's lives in all the ways that they require, and what it really
Yeah.
means to love somebody. The theme of this season of the podcast is for love and blackness.
I
And
love that.
well, absolutely. Thank you. Because the podcast fundamentally is about what it means, right? To show up as your authentic self and to love your authentic self and what that does in the world, and what happens when people don't love themselves or don't know who they are, because that causes them to lash out at others in an effort to make themselves feel better. But this season, I really want to focus on love and blackness, because I think anti-blackness is really kind of destroying the world in many ways. And we've lost the love ethic in all that we do. And part of loving people is providing care and affection, of course, but it's also pouring into people and supporting them in their dreams. It's helping people and nurturing people into fullness spiritually. And your parents, they sound like they did that. And not only from your words, but from who you've shown up in life as. I mean, would you say that's a valid statement? I mean, how
Yes.
grateful are you to them? And tell them about that right now, because we're going to share this with them.
Yeah, and the other thing too that you said is like when I reflect on my career and I
Mhm.
reflect on, what made the difference, because when I went to the University of Texas on a full scholarship, there were a lot of young women who had the potential to be Olympic champions or to make it to the Olympics or go on to do great things. And I always say the thing that I think lifted me above the rest was the love that my parents poured into me, like
Mhm.
just point blank. Like the love that they poured into me gave me the confidence that I needed to go on and to excel. It held me when I faced disappointments and
Mhm.
failures and defeat. And so I definitely think that there is no like magical formula to creating great children, but I certainly feel like the one thing that guarantees them to become the best version of themselves is just giving them that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just so grateful for my parents for being such a good example of that. Like I had some tough times and they were always there. I had great times and they were there. And it's just, just the love was just undeniable. So yeah, I'm great. I'm so grateful to them. And I hope to be that for my son too.
No, that's amazing. And people listening understand that it's not about a perfect world or a perfect family. I mean, I grew up in essentially a single family household, although I have a great relationship with my father as well as my mother. But it's essentially a single family household and meager upbringing in terms of material things. But again, I always felt safe. I always felt loved, and there's no substitute for that. So much of that is who I am as a human being today. So that's amazing, and kudos to your parents who are also on the show
Yes.
with you. You guys all living together, your close knit group. Looks like it might be you might be changing that
Like
in
things
this
might
next
be
season.
changing soon, but stay tuned.
You guys, I'm gonna try my best to get a scoop out of her during this conversation. I want to talk about that a little bit though. Clearly, you're doing a reality show. Has its challenges, right? And I want to get into that a little bit. But here's my question. It's fraught at best to do a show like Housewives, unless or until you know who you are at your core. And, we know what you do and we know what you've done for a living, but at your core, who is Sanya Richards-Ross? Who are you?
Ooh, these are the kinds of questions I like, Ricky. Deep, deep.
They didn't warn you? This is what we
They
do.
army, man. But I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, I am at the core just a very loving being who aspires to exude Black excellence, Black love. Um, I'm a person who understands that although we strive for perfection and excellence, you know, without my truth, without walking with God, we all fall short constantly.
Mhm.
And so, for me, it's about leaning into God and knowing that everything that comes to me is a blessing and a gift from Him. Even my husband, even my family, like they're just borrowed. You know, they're all God's, and I'm very grateful for them. And so ultimately, I just want to bring a little light wherever I can into the world. And like I said, ultimately reflect Black love and Black excellence everywhere I go.
Yeah, no, that's a powerful answer, and I'm not surprised. And that's a good one. And I had this question I wanted to ask you a little later, but you segue right into it. So I'm going to ask you now. When I went to Jamaica for the first time, it was the first time I had gone to an all Black country, essentially.
Yeah,
And it was eye opening. It was amazing.
yeah,
It was a great experience.
hmm,
And as an African American, we have a very different kind of experience in our lives,
right,
right? And so I realized when I went to Jamaica, and from my friends who come from Africa, no one even knows what Blackness is until they come to quote unquote the global West or the global North, America or Europe. That's when you find out that there's this thing
right,
called Blackness.
yeah.
What does Blackness mean to you? And what did your parents kind of teach you about it? Because I would imagine their sense of Blackness is very different than the average African Americans. And I'm very curious about that, how that plays into who you are as a person.
Yeah, that's an exceptional question once again. And, I am also, acutely aware of how different it is to grow up in a country that is all Black,
Mhm,
where all you see around you are Black people, doing great things or not maximizing, all of who they are.
mhm,
And I'll never forget, you know, like you said, like coming to the States and the older I got, realizing like, oh, wait a minute, like this is a thing. Like being Black, is a thing outside of just who we are, right? Like the I think for me, my Blackness was always it how can I describe this in a way that will resonate? So I guess for me, everyone who I admired and wanted to be like and inspired to be was Black. And so Black for me was excellence. Like it
mhm,
was, the sky's the limit. It was all the opportunities, all of those things. And then when I migrated to the States, and obviously I started to integrate in different communities where there were a lot of white people and all different kind of people. At first, I didn't even notice it, right? Like I was just moving like normal, and
mhm,
then you start to kind of get beat down by the narratives that unfortunately is a reality, especially for Black girls in America, right? Where we're not the beauty standard, we're not the highest paid, we're not all of these different things. However, because it was so ingrained in me that Black is excellence and we can be all of the things, I still just feel like I walk with this confidence of knowing who I am and whose I am and where I came from and all the great things that we could do, that I feel like I always kind of had an edge. you know that I hope to as well. Like my husband is very much into Black history and culture, and he's all about like learning about who he is and the power of his ancestors and all the things that we can be. And so we're both really acutely aware of empowering our son to understand that the skin that he wears is he should be so proud of it, and the possibilities are endless because of it. um, but Ricky, you're right. There is definitely, it's something so unique and special to learning about who you are at a young age in a place where all you see around you are other people that look like you.
yeah.
And it gives you an inner confidence that's hard to shake. And I really do wish that, young people born in America had that experience too, because I sometimes can see how this country can just beat us down and make
Mhm.
us feel like, we can't achieve all of these great things, or our circumstances are so trying that is, it feels almost impossible to get out of. And so, I think it's a very deep question. These are conversations we have in the house,
Mhm.
rarely publicly on podcasts. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation. But yeah, my blackness brings me a lot of pride. And I feel very confident as a Black woman that I can do anything I put my mind to, and that I'm equipped to, to take over the world.
I received that and I see that. And you're right. We have these conversations in the background, but I think now more than ever, we have to have these conversations publicly because this myth of supremacy and this rampant anti-Blackness is destroying everything. And not just us, by the way. We're on the verge of destroying what's left of our democracy, all because of anti-Blackness. When you really think about it, anti-Blackness is as bad for those who aren't Black as it is for us. And that's
That's
what I'm really focused on. I hope helping
true.
people to see that like anti-Blackness is destroying everything,
Yeah.
including the things you say you hold near and dear. For instance, last week I was walking along the river here in New York, and I discovered this new river, and so I named it the Nothing to Lose River, and it's a beautiful river. You get where I'm going, right? How do you discover things when there's
Yeah.
people there already? Like
Right.
all this stuff are these rampant lies, and the lies are not helping anybody. Just stop the madness. Like it's not CRT. It's not like this heinous conspiracy to destroy everything. It's just the freaking truth. Like it's okay. We're all human beings. You know what I mean? And so if you remove this construct of race side of things, you give people the space to be who we actually are, which is human beings trying to figure out our way, trying to love ourselves, trying to grow, trying to achieve, trying to make this life mean something. I just think everybody robs themselves of that when they're trying to rob others of that. They're actually, the most damage they're doing is to themselves. You're not comfortable. You're not safe. You've got a gun everywhere because you're worried about somebody coming and doing to you what your, folks have done to others. Just love, and especially in the name of Christ, in the name of Jesus. Like the call is to love, not to
Love.
judge, not to oppress, not to
Yeah.
discriminate. The call is to love. It's very basic, very simple. But back
Love.
to you. Let's run this resume real quick because you are accomplished, a 4-time Olympic gold medalist in track and field. There was another medal, and a medal is a medal is a medal. So I'm going to mention that you have another one too. That wasn't gold, but there's another one. A 6-time world champion, 400-meter American record holder, 3-time author, a founder and co-owner of Mommi Nation, which we're going to get into in a minute, a sports analyst and commentator for NBC. You were a host on TV on Central Ave,
Yeah.
and now a housewife. Now, I mean, with all those accomplishments, I mean, I'm literally in awe of those accomplishments. That's a lot. And you've done it all with this grace, with this humility, and you've been respectful and amazing throughout your career. But I have a very real but respectful question.
Sure.
Given your track record, given all your achievements in your career trajectory, girl, why housewives?
I knew you were gonna say that.
Like I need to know. And I
Right.
think people need to know. So
Yes,
no.
and I think it's a fair question, because I too asked myself, like it wasn't something that I did lightly.
Mhm.
But to be honest, the starting point for me is I always say yes to life. That's the first thing. When opportunities come, I say yes.
Mhm.
And then I figure it out. And if things happen easily and they flow, then I feel like they're meant for me, right? Because I feel like, this is an opportunity that God has brought to me. And so, to be very honest, real and raw with you, Ricky, there is really no blueprint for an Olympic champion after retirement. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
real.
it's like
Yeah, that's real.
you give your life, your heart to something for 30 plus years, and then it just comes to an end. And I think most people would be hard pressed to name an Olympic champion. What are they doing now? Like name an Olympic track and field gold medalist. Tell me what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And so, it's not easy to figure out how you're going to make your mark next, what opportunity is going to come next to you. And so to me, to work is to be blessed. And so, I thought, I've watched the Housewives for a long time. I'm not a big reality girl either, but the Housewives has always been a show that I enjoyed. I
Mhm.
know that it's a very iconic and important part of pop culture. And so the truth is, I wanted to show up on the show as what I want to see on the show, right? Like I want to see positive individuals with beautiful families and great work ethic and all those things. And so when the opportunity came, I said, I'm going to show up as me in that space. Like I'm going to, I'm going to take up space and I'm going to do it my way. And so, the truth is they came and asked me if I would join. The first year it didn't work out. I wasn't moved to Atlanta. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. And then
Hmm.
they came back a second time, and I was like, you know what? I think we're going to move here. And I think this would be a great opportunity for me to show my businesses and to just continue to grow as an individual who still feels like she hasn't even scratched the surface of all the things that she can do, in her life. So it wasn't like a whimsical or like not thought out decision. It was something that I was very prayerful about and very grateful for. And as I continue to evolve on the show, I think that people will get to see more of who I am and what I bring to the table. And I think it will all make sense soon.
Yeah. No, I mean that answer makes sense, and you are very similar in many ways to what Ebony K. Williams says about why she chose to do
And I talked to
Housewives
her
of New
before I
York.
joined the show. She was one of the people that I talked to because I really respected her. And when I saw that she joined the platform, and she was very encouraging of me joining the platform. So, like I said, it wasn't like a just whimsical decision. It was something I was very thoughtful about, and spoke to a few people who I respected about, and they also encouraged me to join as well.
You know, I love about this. First of all, I love you guys had sound amazing, well thought out, well conceived reasons for why you did it. Secondly, I love the sisterhood that you
Yeah,
call another dynamic, amazing sister who I'm also going to be talking to, by the way.
yeah,
And it's great to see because again the narrative that quite often we get in these shows is
yeah.
pitting Black women against
Against
each
each
other, and
other.
that's one of the challenges I have with some of
Sure.
these shows sometimes. But this is a perfect example of the opposite of that. And it's
Yeah.
good. I wanted to unearth that and wanted to share that with people. So I'm glad you were so honest and open with that. What was it like convincing? Did you have to convince Ross to do it?
Oh,
It was,
a lot of convincing, a lot of good loving. Ross was not on board at first, and I think his big fear was just, obviously there is this history of, relationships not making it, on
Mhm.
reality television. And so there's nothing more important to both of us than our marriage and our family. And so, I had to, get him on board. I told him, I said, the truth is that we have such a strong foundation. We've been together for 20 years.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like there's anything we can't accomplish together. And so, his biggest thing was he just did not want to have to act or not be himself. And he didn't want any fake drama. And
Yeah.
so I think that for the most part, they did a really good job of that, except for when he had to stand up for me on one of the shows when they was making some fake drama. He didn't like that. Um,
Baby, he was not having it. And I love that. I love that about him, and I love that about you guys in your relationship. That's one of the things I know. From the outside looking in, you never know what anyone's complete story is. But the
Sure.
little bit that I've seen on the show, as well as in other conversations you've had with people on podcasts and such, you guys are two amazing human beings and Black people who truly were fortunate to find each other and love each other. I mean, you are
Yeah.
clearly his queen, and he's clearly your king. I mean, I love it. I love it.
He's I feel Ricky's so blessed to have him in my life. Like, he's just an amazing man, and he just loves unconditionally and deeply. And we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. And the one thing that has remained constant is his love for me. So I'm very, very grateful. And I'm so appreciative that he honored my desire to do this, because obviously, in relationships, you gotta compromise. Like, it could have gone either way. I could have said, okay, if he didn't want to do it that badly, we wouldn't have done it. But I'm just so grateful that he was like, okay, we'll give it a shot, and it's been good for us. This season is even better. It's even better
Yeah.
for us. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. What's your experience been like on the show so far? You feel like it's been a positive, uplifting experience for you?
Yeah, the first season, I didn't really know what to expect, and
Mhm.
it's funny because I like doing things where I feel like I'm being stretched and my heart's beating out of my chest, like I'm on the start line of the 400 at the Olympics.
Yeah.
This took it to another level.
You're out of your
Another
comfort zone completely. No comfort zone
Woo!
here.
No, not at all. And it's funny because I feel like I was born to run. So that came, even though it was a challenge, and
Mhm.
like obviously it's your heart's on the line when you're stepping on that line, and you only have one chance to win gold in 4 more years, all that. So that, but I feel like I was made for that. This, I'm like, okay, having to adjust a little bit. Like, okay, how am I gonna win in this space? But first season was tough because I'm going on to this very well established show with women who have long standing relationships and who have big personalities. And, I'm coming in trying to, like, be myself and get to know the ladies authentically and all that stuff. And so, there were a few pitfalls on the first season where I kind of learned my lessons. Because it's trial by fire on the
Mm-hmm.
housewives. People think it's not scripted. They do not cut and start over. Like, obviously, I think what brings the tension on the show is you're having these conversations, you're having all these things happening, and then the realization that something happened and it's on camera. Like, it makes
Right.
people, like you're obviously going to respond a certain way because you don't want other people to, so that's what makes it a heightened, kind of social experiment. I always say it's like a social experiment of women who have big personalities, bravado, all this stuff. See if they can be friends. All hell's gonna break loose.
And it
So,
definitely breaks loose. I had a moment. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
oh,
I had a
please.
moment. You guys in Marlo's event, and y'all went and talked to Marlo about what everybody was talking about. I'm like, nah, Sanya,
I know.
are you going to be that girl? Like,
I know.
really? Oh, God. Matthew, why you got me talking to the? He's like, keep watching,
Keep
keep
watching.
watching.
Keep watching. And those are some of the moments that are tough because obviously you got to keep the conversation moving along.
Mhm.
And so it's really hard because obviously if you never tell them, then they only see it when the show airs, so there's no comments about it. So those are parts of things I also learned, as being a part of the show, is like, how do you authentically navigate relationships? Because in real life, girls do that, right? Like if I'm on the phone
Mhm.
and my girlfriend, I'm like, girl, like this, that's how it works. It's just tricky when it's on camera.
Yeah, because it can definitely come off some kind of way. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you. Everything I've read about you, all the other times I've seen you, like, this doesn't seem like it's in her character, but I saw what I saw. What's what's going on?
Give me some grace. Keep watching. Keep watching.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I can vouch for you. You're a stand up kind of sister. You talked about you and Ross have been through a lot. I know you have talked about it in a couple of places, but my listeners may not know. Tell us about how you guys met, how this fairy tale romance kind of began.
Sure. So we met freshman year in college at the University of Texas. And I was actually in the dining hall and he walked in and I was like, ooh, he's kind of cute. And so I called him over. And it was so funny because Ricky, when he told me his name, it was my ex-boyfriend's name. And I was like, oh no, Aaron's not going to work. Thank you, but no thanks. And so I kind of like, dismissed them. And a week later, he got my phone number from my sister's friend. And we were on our first date and we were like literally inseparable after that. Like, and our first date, we went to church. And it was just, he's, like I said, he's just such a great human being. And, I feel very fortunate that I met him so early in my life because we've grown together so much. My husband went on to play in the NFL, won 2 Super Bowl rings. I got
Oh,
to
I
meet
know. I'm a Giants fan, baby.
him.
And tell him I said thank you. And yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
undefeated Patriots thing, I could not have lived through that. I'm so glad they beat the Patriots. Like I could. Oh,
and I always say I think my husband literally tried to give me 3 heart attacks because in his 3 when they also won the national championship at UT and every single game they win in like the last 5 seconds. I'm like, can y'all seal the deal earlier? Like you're gonna give us a heart attack.
wait, whoa. Was he on the team that beat Southern California?
Yes, with Vince Young. Yes, that was his national championship team too at UT. Oh, but I feel like that one hurt you. I feel like you didn't.
Broke my entire heart. I'm a Reggie Bush, Southern Cal guy.
Oh, well, he made
Yeah.
up to you, the Giants.
Yeah, he did. He did. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Somehow I missed that. It was all Vince. It was the Vince Young show. Although they
Yes,
had a great game all around. So,
yeah,
no.
no, my husband was a starter on the defensive side of the football, and that was a game.
That's really dope. Now you also, you guys had some trying times,
Yeah,
and one of the most significant ones. And I really want to touch base on this a little bit briefly because it's such a conversation in our culture right now. It's in our politics. Is women's reproductive rights, and you've been very candid and forthright about the fact that you had an abortion and the
yeah,
reasons why. Would you share a little bit about that so people can kind of get the human face and all these things, right?
yeah,
It's like as a human being, as a man, of course I care about life in all its form, including fetuses. But
yeah,
that story's far more complex than that. So share a
yeah.
little bit for us if you could.
Yeah, for sure. And it's still a really tough topic to talk about because it's so personal, and it's like it's such a tough decision to make. And I think up until that point in my life, I always felt like things were just black and white,
Mhm.
and for the first time in my life, things got gray. It was like whatever choice I make, I wasn't sure which choice was going to be the right choice for me. Ross and I were engaged at the time. It was 2000, right before 2008. So we were engaged for a year or so. I knew he was going to be my husband. We wanted to start a family, but we weren't ready. We weren't ready to be parents. I wanted to become an Olympic champion since I was 9 years old. And so, I think it's important to also share this part of the story too, because it's real. Like I was in college. I had just finished college. Ross had just graduated in 2007, and as young female athletes, we always thought that when we were at our fittest, that you wouldn't get pregnant. Like that was just what we always believed. Like you got zero body fat. Like all of these rumors that weren't true, right? When you don't have people who are, pouring into you, all the real things, sometimes that lack of education and that miseducation, puts you in tough situations. So,
For those listening, that's why you need to teach these things in school,
yeah,
because not every child is getting access to
yeah,
scientific information about
yeah.
their bodies and the potential consequences of actions. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's important because people.
No, it's very important. It's so important. And we you learn so many things that you never use again in your life when you're in school. And
Mhm.
so why not focus on the things that really matter? And so
Yeah,
I think that that's a really important point. So I was shocked to learn that I was pregnant right before I was leaving for the Olympics. And also too, as a female athlete too, you take birth control, you put on weight, and I had really bad experience with birth. So it's just all of these things that as a woman you're dealing with,
mhm.
especially as a young woman with goals and big dreams. So to make a super long story short, I had an abortion the day before I boarded my flight to go to Beijing for the 2008 Olympics.
My
And I didn't.
goodness.
Only people that knew was my sister, my mom, and my now husband, but my fiance at the time. I didn't tell my dad, who was my like number one. Like this was my manager, like came to all my practices, like that, like my best friend, like he's like leading team SRR.
Yeah.
I didn't tell my coach. And when you have an abortion, you're supposed to take 14 days off to physically recover. And I'm on a plane at practice the next day. I don't want to tell my coach, right? Like what happened. And so there was that physical impact, the emotional impact, and the spiritual impact
Yeah.
of making a decision that I never thought I would make. I always thought like I'll do certain things, but I'll never ever do something like that. And so I really struggled with that, Ricky. Like I stood on the line in Beijing. I just didn't feel worthy of being an Olympic champion that day. I felt like I had stepped outside of who I wanted to be
Mhm.
as a Christian woman, as a woman. And I don't ever want to take anything away from Christina Rugu, who ran a great race that day. But in some ways, I feel like I just wasn't able to go out and give my best because I was so broken by that choice that I made
Yeah.
to not have my child. So it's really difficult, and you hear a lot of conversations, but the truth is that I've never seen or talked to a woman in a clinic who wanted to be there. you know,
Absolutely.
it's not a choice that we want to make. It's a lot of times a choice that we feel like we have to make. And I have a lot of compassion for women who find themselves in difficult situations for whatever reasons.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think it's fair for anybody else to have an opinion. I think that's something that she has to go through with her family, her, God, her partner, because it can be, the
And
toughest
herself.
in your
And
life. Yeah,
herself,
yeah, and
because you live with it.
yeah, exactly.
No, you're right. It's a profoundly difficult and complicated set of circumstances,
Yeah,
and it's so challenging for me to watch people who will never have to have that experience,
right.
men,
Yep,
have such opinions about what women can and should or shouldn't do with their
absolutely,
bodies. I had to
absolutely.
show up for not one, but two of my friends in their lifetimes to walk them through those moments, to talk about the pros, the cons,
Yeah,
how are you going to feel? What does this really mean? But what is best for you? Is it good for your health? All the things, and watch them struggle with those decisions. And they were very difficult. And you're right. I don't think anyone is in a clinic, no one's in a clinic laughing and talking like, okay, I'm gonna do this and get back to my life. Like it's a very deep, personal,
right.
spiritual,
Mhm.
emotional decision, and it's one that doesn't go away when the act is done. And so
Yep.
I applaud you for being so courageous and honest about sharing it. And that's one of the reasons why you're just an amazing guest, because
Thank
you
you.
live and you walk in your authenticity. And I was curious. I was curious how that affected you as a person of faith, and
Yeah.
all the things that that means as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I would love to kind of share the end of that story because it
mhm.
does wrapped up in my faith, you know. And so after I lost and won the bronze, it took me a long time to say I won a bronze medal that night because I felt like I lost the goal that I was undefeated that season, ranked number one, the biggest upset of the night. Um, and I remember when I won the bronze medal that night, feeling like I was literally lost emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And I remember just wanting to go see my family, right? Because you can imagine in the Olympics, we're
Yeah.
in the village with all the athletes. Like you go back and it's like, like that's where we live for the 2 weeks. And I was like, I can't go back and have to answer all these questions of what happened, all this stuff. So I get on a bus to go see my family, to go see my mom and my sister. My husband wasn't able to come because he was in training camp and stuff, so he wasn't there. Um, and so I get on the bus and I'm crying so hard, Ricky, because I'm so hurt by everything that's going on that I get on the wrong bus and I end up literally in the middle of Beijing, China, where I obviously don't speak the language, don't know where I am, and I feel this, feeling like I tell you of being so lost.
Hmm.
I literally feel the loving arms of God just like wrap his arms around me, like in the middle of Beijing. And he said to me, "You're forgiven." And I don't care what anybody says
Hmm.
about God, Jesus, whoever, he is real. It was this beautiful feeling of understanding that God's love for us is nothing that we understand. Like you can't earn it. It's just given to us freely. And in that moment, I felt like he had forgiven me. It was time for me to forgive myself.
Hmm.
And I remember stepping on the track 3 days later for the 4x4 relay, and we were behind the Russian team, and I was able to overhaul the Russian and win gold. And that just always has been a picture for me of, the fact that in life you get beat down and you have, very difficult moments, but we can still be victorious in God. Like in Jesus, you can still find
Hmm.
victory, and he doesn't want the worst from you. You're not defined by your worst decisions, right? Like you still have redemption, all these things. So yeah, that's kind of, for me, like the picture of God's love for me that I'll never let go of.
Yeah.
Um, and help me to start to work my way through the shame and disappointment, all those things that you feel when you make a poor choice.
Yeah, well, or a difficult choice, because
Or
poor is a judgment, but it was a
right.
difficult choice.
Yes.
That was a beautiful, beautiful story. I mean, look at the beauty that came out of that. Do
Yeah.
you know that God would have shown up and spoken directly to you? I've had the same kind of experience for different reasons,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like it. Before then, there's faith, there's this
Right.
notion of God somebody gave you, but when you experience the presence of God the way you described and the way I've experienced, it is literally transformative.
It is.
um, and it's a reminder of the importance and the power of love. And I think people use the word love a lot, but people don't really think about what it really means, or we don't have a shared definition of what love is. And I was reading Bell Hooks, and she shared this definition of love that she got from M. Scott Peck, who wrote the book The Road Less Traveled. And his definition was, love is the will to make oneself available for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. That
Mm,
love is an intention and an action. We
wow.
don't choose to love. I mean, we don't just fall in love or fall to love. We choose to love, and you have to continue to act
Yeah.
in loving ways. And so when people talk about, loving God or being Christians or whatever, but then they're acting in unloving ways,
Right.
there's an immediate disconnect for me. How can you be so judgmental, so oppressive, so evil, so dark, so oppressive, when you say that you follow the one who says that we should love? So
Yeah.
you are a shining example of what love looks like. And look, you were blessed with
Yeah.
another child, and being a
Yes.
mommy is clearly important to you. I watched you on the show and I see you talking about it. Talk to me about how motherhood has transformed you, and
Yeah.
you can go right on into Mommi Nation and what that
Sure.
means to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Ricky, and thank you. Yeah, it's a treat to hear your take on so many of the questions that you've asked. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But motherhood is by far the most rewarding and beautiful role that I get to play, and I am very grateful that I have had the opportunity to be a mom, because there was a little bit where Ross and I weren't sure, like you question if you'll be able to experience that, and so Being a mom has just been the joy of my life, and my son has been the richest blessing. And I think in many ways, like what you've talked about, the theme of this show is like, you think you know what love is,
Mhm.
you think you know how to love, until you have this little human being who can do no wrong, who, no matter how hard it is, like up all night or they're not feeling well, and the love is like this will, it just wills you forward. And so, yeah, my son has definitely, changed me at the core and opened up a part of love in me I didn't even know existed. And I know a lot of parents can relate to that. And because of my experience in motherhood, I formed an organization 4 years ago now called Mommi Nation.
Mhm.
And I created Mommi Nation because although I wanted to be a mom and I had the resources and support, motherhood was still challenging for me. I feel like it's you're always, you always have a little human there, but it can feel very lonely
Yeah.
if your experiences don't line up exactly like your mom's or your sisters or whoever are the other kind of mom role models in your life. And so I created this community because I wanted, specifically for Black women, especially, to feel in community, to feel connected, to feel like they weren't alone. And when I launched this community, Ricky, it was right before COVID happened, right before the social uprising and George Floyd,
Mhm.
and all these things were happening. And I realized that being a Black mother in America was a very unique experience. And so, there are many causes that we kind of champion. One of them, most importantly, being, our efforts towards eradicating the Black maternal mortality rate, where Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die than white women due to pregnancy complications. And so, that's my passion. Like, I really, 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 if there's a legacy I can leave far beyond track or anything like that, I really want to make an impact in improving the experiences of Black mothers all over the world. Improving their outcomes in pregnancy and birth, and then improving their experiences as moms. So I'm really, really proud of what we've done so far in 4 years, and hopeful of all the work that we will continue to do.
Well, we thank you for doing that work because it's really important work. And a dear friend of mine, one of my pastors, Reverend Alicia Gordon, who's based here in New York but works in Atlanta as well, has a complementary organization she formed called the Current Project, and they focus on helping single Black moms with all the challenges of that. So I'd love to introduce you guys, and maybe there's some work that you guys can collaborate on
Yes,
together
I love that. Thank you.
and help people out. Yeah, because she talks about how people need help and don't always ask for it, and things that I wish I'd known earlier. I mean, I'd look at all the ways that I probably didn't show up for my sister and that I thought I was showing up, but there's other ways I could have shown up if I'd known better. And so I just think it's so important to share these stories and to have these conversations so that people can know what's necessary and know what people's challenges are, and we can show up for each other and build that beloved community everybody likes to talk about, but we can actually maybe do the work to
Right.
build it. And one last thing, you touched on what parenthood does for you, what being a mom does for you. I've watched it with so many of my friends. I've watched it with myself. I'm like a dad to a few people, not a biological dad, but a dad to a few people. And
Yeah.
it does this thing where there's this love that resides, and I believe inside of all of us.
Right.
But if we can get past our fear, if we can get past the challenges, we can get past the trauma that we've experienced, we can tap into that
Yeah.
love. And parenthood kind of is a window, a gateway to that for so many people. And I think if parents could take that, and you guys can share with us what that feels like, and maybe inspire people who aren't parents to find that space, find that love
Yeah.
inside them, that's
Yeah.
another gift that you can give to the world. Because I really do believe everybody has it in them somewhere, even the coldest, darkest heart. It's in there somewhere. It's just, protecting itself from all the pain and trauma that is experienced in the past. Sandra, this has been great. I mean, Sanya, this has been great. I am grateful for you coming. What is next for you? I want to know that because I know you got something cooking. I don't know what it is, but I know you got something else cooking.
Yeah, thank you. I am so obviously the Real Housewives of Atlanta. When you hear this conversation, will be airing. So I hope that you'll tune in and support the show. I still commentate for NBC, so every weekend there's a big track meet on TV. Tune in to hear me and my colleagues, really pouring into the athletes and highlighting the great things that they're doing on the track. I work with Nike as a brand ambassador, so I do a lot of great things with them. and iFit as well. I'm also launching a new line at the end of the season. I don't want to give it away, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. That's very on brand for me. It's about family. It'll be launching the end of 2023. Every family can get one, so hopefully you guys will. So
See, I knew something was in the works. I knew it.
yes. And I'm really, really excited about it. It's coming along really, really well. And then, like I said, like I love hosting. I love public speaking, all that kind of stuff. So hoping to do more of that in the future. And then, my big goal is to one day, Good Morning America, The View, that's where I'm headed, Ricky. That's where
All
I'm
right.
headed.
All right. Y'all hear that, producers? Y'all hear that? Good Morning America, The View, or maybe her own show. Let's get it, y'all. Let's get it. I appreciate you. You need a photographer, any of those things, give me a holler. But
Listen, I'm thinking we should be co-hosting a show because you are, this has been phenomenal. Like seriously, one of the best interviews I've had. So I really, really appreciate your thoughtfulness and, just what you're doing, the work that you're doing. I could feel your love and passion, and I know your audience does too. So thank you so much for doing what you do and for having me on.
that was really, really kind of you. Thank you. I do my best. That's all we can do, right? We use our gifts
Yep.
to serve other people. That is how I live. That's all that matters. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Why don't you drop your social media and your website for us so we can and I'll put it in the show notes as well. But I want people to be able to find you and be able to support your efforts.
Yes, please. So you can follow me individually on all social platforms at Sanya, Sanya, Richie, Richi Ross, ROSS. So that's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places. And then Mommi Nation. We are on Instagram, MOMMINATION, Mommi Nation. We're on Instagram. And of course, you can follow our blog, which is super important to us. We have over 1,000 blogs written by incredible Black moms, by educators, by leaders, just celebrities. All kinds of people have contributed to our resource. And then we do really cool events too, which you can learn all about on our Instagram and on our website as well.
Well, that was a lot. That was a lot. And you guys follow her and support her because she's out here doing the work and she's making it do what it do. Tell Ross that we said we appreciate him for being a great example of a king loving his queen. And thanks again for winning them Super Bowls because I could not have taken the that's my dude right there. But I appreciate you. All is well in the world when you are doing the kinds of things that you're doing. So we are really, really grateful for you. And I thank you again for coming on because what we're trying to do here is change the world, make the world a little bit better place, one conversation at a time. And this is definitely a great start to our 4th season. So thank you so much. And keep doing everything you do. I'm going to keep doing what I do for love and Blackness. Thank you, Sanya Richards-Ross.